Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to replace your direct mount chainring, and that could be on a Shimano M7100 or an XT M8100 or an XTR, whichever you've got. So same principle applies. So I'll go ahead, let's get into it. Right, so the first step in this is obviously you want to remove your chain from the bike. Now if yours is riveted together, then it'd be more difficult. So in that case, if you haven't got another rivet to rivet it back together with again, and the appropriate tools, then you can just push down with the clutch off on the rear derailleur, just push down so your chain goes slack, and then you can just drop the chain off the front chain ring out the way, so you're protecting your frame, especially if it's carbon fibre, with something in there, and you can just drop the chain off for the time being, presuming you obviously haven't got any devices on here, chain catchers, anything like that, devices on there. If you've got a quick link in it, then you can go ahead and remove it with a pair of pliers like so, just by putting them either side of the link like that and then squeezing it together, and it comes undone. Just hold both sides of the chain, otherwise it'll go flying apart because it's still under a bit of tension and you'll lose the links. So if you just keep hold of it like so, then you can disconnect it like so, then drop it down. See, there's the quick links like so. Put them to one side safe. Then you can take the chain off out the way, so you can either take it right off or just leave it out the way for the time being at the back. So once you've done that, then ready to go ahead and remove the crank set there from the bike, so we get into that. Right, so here we are on the non-drive side. Now to remove the crank set, you need to remove the arm on the non-drive side first. So what you want is a 5mm hex head Allen key to start with. Then if you just, there's a bolt there and a bolt on the opposite side there, 5mm. So if you just crack them undone, just do one at a time. So you may have to angle the crank so it's not in the way of the frame when you try and undo it, anything like so. Just undo them, and then what you want to do is undo them out enough so there's no tension on them at all. Just spin them undone like that. And then once you've done that, there's a tab in the middle there, black plastic piece in the middle, as you can see. What you want to do is flick that up so as it's proud of the crank arm, like so. And once you've done that, a tool like this for the nut that's on the end, the plastic nut there, to remove that, looks like that. Now you should just be able to put that tool in there and undo it by hand. But if you notice, it's got a hex on there, so as if yours has been over tightened, you can get a spanner or socket, whichever your tool is, appropriate size socket, to undo it with. So it's anti-clockwise to undo it. Like I said, you should be able to undo it by hand. So you just undo the nut like so, put that to one side, and then you can just, you should just be able to just pull off the arm like so. So there's the arm. Once you've done that, then what you need to do is we're going to obviously remove this shaft there back through to the drive side where the chainring is. Whatever you do, don't hit this with a normal hammer. You want a soft blow hammer like so. If you haven't got one of these, you can use a normal hammer, but put a block of wood against there just to tap it with. Shouldn't be in there hard or anything, just give it a tap and it should start to move. Once it starts to move, you can just pull it through. Just give it a few taps like that, you see it move. Shouldn't have to hit it hard or anything. And then you can just pull it out from the drive side, so it just comes all the way through like so, and there we have it. So I'll go ahead, we'll get the chain ring off. Right, so to remove the actual chain ring off of the arm, see there's a nut there on these, so you need to remove that to replace it with a complete new one. Now to remove that, there's a tool like so. This is a TL-FC16 Shimano tool. That slides over the spindle through the middle and locates onto the nut that's holding the chainring on. So to undo it, you've got a few options. You either get a big spanner that will fit that nut. Not many people will have a spanner that big knocking around to do that with. So what you want, if you haven't got a spanner appropriate size, what you need is an adjustable spanner, because see this, as you can see on there, slide it over, then you can hold on the crank arm and then undo the spanner. Now you need a decent adjustable for this. There's no point having one just like a pipe spanner or anything, because you've got to hold on to it onto there and you won't be able to get enough grip to hold it and undo it at the same time. So you need something that's like that clamps on like a spanner to be able to undo it with, because that will be quite tight, especially if you've never had it undone before since you've had the bike, say, and you're replacing the chainring for the first time. You should be able to hold on to it, just about undo it like so. Once you've cracked it undone, you can just go ahead and unthread it like so. Slide the nut off, and there's the nut holding it on. Put that to one side. Once you've done that, you can just lift off your chain ring. There's the two component parts. Right, so when it comes to refitting the chain ring on there, make sure that you've got plenty of grease around the splines there to start with, because you don't want it getting seized on there in the future. So if you grease that up, plenty of grease on it, and then with the chain ring, you see there's a big notch at the top there, which corresponds with the big notch on the top of the crank arm there. So you go ahead, place that over like so, and then get them lined up, and it just drops in place. Then get your nut. Also make sure that you've got some grease on that, the threads as well. And then what you want to do is just start that by hand first, just to make sure that it's not cross threaded in any way, and then you can get your tool, slide that over, and then nip it down with your tool till it's done up tight like that, and get your spanner again. Now the torque on these, on this nut, is 35 to 50 Newton meters, but like I said, very few people are going to have a torque wrench with that'll fit on there, because you need a socket that's going to go over there, and not many sockets are this tall to put a torque wrench on top of to torque it up. You're not going to have one of them knocking around. So if you get your spanner again, get that in position. We're just tying it down until it's tight like that, and that's enough. That's the chain ring mounted back on there. So chain rings, as you know, they come in various sizes. This just happens to be a 32. If you want to change your gearing, fit a 34, 30, whatever you want to put on there, if you're thinking of changing your gearing at the same time. So let's go ahead, we'll get this back in the bike. Right, so before we go ahead and refit the crank set to the bike, make sure that you grease the shaft first with a liberal amount of grease. Just put a bit on the splines on the end as well while you're there, before you slide it back through. And then it's just a case of pushing it through from the drive side first. So you just put it in position, and then you should just be able to tap it back through. It should just slide through easily. Make sure it's all the way through. It's touching on this side, and then again make sure that there is actually some grease on the threads there, on the splines that's sticking out, before you go ahead and refit the non-drive side crank arm. So obviously what you want to do, opposite to the other side, so the other side will be pointing down, so you want it pointing up, otherwise you're not going to get very far. There's a notch on the top there, bigger notch, corresponds with a larger slot in the arm. So you just go ahead, line them two up. Once you've got them lined up, you should just be able to slot the arm back on like so. So once that's in place, then you can get your nut again. Just make sure there's a little bit of grease on there, it doesn't do any harm, just put a bit of grease on it before you put it back in. And then what you want to do is just start that off, and then the torque on these is about 1.5 Newton meters, so that's absolutely nothing. If you over tighten it, never put a spanner on here or socket and wind that up, because you're over tightening and you're putting load on the bearings, and the crank will be tight to spin. You won't be able to spin it very easily. So all you want to do with that nut is just nip it up with your hand as soon as it stops moving, roughly, and a bit more, and that's plenty. That's all you've got to do. And then once that's done, then the black plastic tab that's stuck up at the moment there, just make sure you push that back down again, so as it's almost flush with the top of the crank arm. Push that back down, and then 5mm hex head again. Just do that up until it stops moving, and a little bit more, and then do the opposite side. Just all them alternate. So as soon as it stops moving, just tweak it up a bit, and then move back to the other side. The gap there's got to be the same. No point doing one all the way up. Got to do them up even. So once you've got them nipped up like that, you go ahead and torque them up, which is 12 to 14 Newton meters of torque. So there's the crank reinstalled. So ready now to go ahead, refit the chain. Right, so if you removed your chain, then I'm going to go ahead and refit it. So you drop your chain onto your chain ring, they'll only go on a certain way. Make sure as well, if you remove the chain right off the bike, so this is Shimano chain, make sure that the writing is on the outside of the chain when you put it back on. And then if yours had the link in it, then you want to refit that. So put the link onto the chain like so, get the other one to the other end, and make sure that when you're fitting them back together at the bottom here, make sure that the arrow, this is Shimano connector this applies to, there's an arrow on there that's pointing that way. So when it's on the bottom, make sure that it's pointing towards the derailleur, the arrow on the bottom, and then when it's on the top it should be pointing towards your front chainring. And that applies to the Shimano connector with the Shimano chain. Right, so we just bring them together. So you just put them together like so, clip them together. And then you can either get your pliers like so and just squeeze it together apart, so as you're pushing it apart so it engages it. So you open the pliers up, just put either side of it again and just open them up and it will engage it in. Or you can just put it round to the top, all the way round to the top there. And then with the wheel on the ground, just push down on your crank arm forwards like that and it will pop the link together. It's another way of doing it. But if you've got the tool to remove it, you can just use your tool and just put it together with the tool. Right, so there's the installation complete. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.